And so, if I don't cry, we'll be fine. With one reporting, and this is just a reporting item, Leading Age will meet in Indianapolis in October of next year through Halloween in 2016 in Indianapolis. Proposals for panels, and this is one of the things that we tried so valiantly for this year and did not succeed. So proposals for panels at that meeting are due now. So if you have an idea of anything, there is supporting document number G is a proposal that your officers have been submitted for that purpose. So take a look at that. As a point of information, we've had mixed success in the past. Last year, Jean developed a proposal, and she can report on how that submission was received, acknowledged, processed, and dealt with. We've had yeses, we've had great ones, and those that we have not been successful. Jean, you want to speak just really briefly about your proposal?
What's that?
Do you want to speak briefly about the proposal that you had for last year?
Well, yeah, I went to a networking meeting, which I found to be really very valuable. And the networking meeting had different topics that people were discussing. And so that's the idea that I had. In Denver, the Leading Age started off the meeting so that all the NACRA people went to a networking meeting. Everybody was there. And how many of you remember there, Jane Fonda had a YouTube presentation that she made. And then all of us discussed, you know, the possibilities for growth as we were aging. This was not just NACRA people, but all residents.
So how was your proposal received?
We had two people from Westminster, Canterbury, Iris Kennedy and Betty Clark.
For your proposal,
Who attended that, and they came back to Westminster, Canterbury and reproduced that for our board of directors, our governing board, and also for the residents. At any rate, that's why I went to the networking meeting in Dallas, which was a different kind of networking meeting.
What was your proposal?
It was to have 6 different topics, and people would come and they would gather together at these tables and just discuss among themselves, and there would be a discussion leader at each table, the discussion topics, and then they change after 20 minutes. And that's what they did this particular meeting. And then somebody reported on, you know, what the topics were had been discussed. That was my proposal.
and they did that, it was not accepted.
It didn't. They didn't.
Yeah,
it's not here.
Okay,
We're not going to it.
I can speak to that. Ordinarily, by March or April, they respond to all people who submit proposals and tell them whether they were accepted or not. The year before, NACRA, I put together a proposal and NACRA submitted it. It included Lynn O'Connor on the panel. So we had a panel, we had AV Powell, I believe, it was a pretty good panel. We never received any response. So finally, in May, or in June, when we were getting ready to, near the time to do it, I said to them, are you going to let us know whether this is a go, before, so we know whether to prepare for it? Oh, didn't we tell you? You know, we have so many proposals, we don't need yours. And I think the difficulty is that it originated with residents. There's a division within Leading Age's national office between those who believe they should lead the providers toward being in harmony with those they serve, and those who believe they should serve the providers as an interest group distinct and apart from those they serve. So there's that division that persists, so we're not the only ones divided. the providers too are divided, that's represented in the national office. In line with that, this year, we came up with the idea, we wanted to get it in early so that we would have a chance of grabbing the outgoing CEO before he's gone, was to have a proposal of how we can mobilize grassroots advocacy at the state level using 2 states. One state, Walt Boyer State, where he tells us there's exemplary cooperation. Another state where Washington, the state of Washington, where cooperation is just beginning. And we have the leading age CEO in each state and the NACRA, or the state association president in each state, paired. So there'll be 4 people on the panel with Larry Minix, who's the one who's trying to create this kind of cooperation. Now he would by then be retired as the moderator. So he has sort of agreed to do that if his successor agrees that it's a good idea. We haven't heard definitely, but that's his work. So that was the proposal we put in.
For next year.
Yeah,
For
for
next year.
2016 in Indianapolis.
For Indianapolis. We also received a suggestion from Bill Root of the state of Michigan. He would like NACRA to propose a panel to deal with the question of arbitrage profits in CCRC financial arrangements. He thinks that's something that would be of great interest. So,
You might not like it if you use that word.
That's right, yeah.
arbitrage.
Arbitrage.
No, that's the word he used.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Yeah,
We did a sexy
yeah.
title.
Yeah.
Sexy title needed.
Well, he's interested in it because of the Mission Ridge
Right.
case, and so that would be a possibility. My personal belief is that that's not something that residents would come from residents. By the way, what arbitrage means is if you're a nonprofit and you go into this tax-exempt bond market and borrow at tax-exempt interest rates, which are lower interest rates because the interest is not taxed to the people receiving it. You get a lower rate, but you buy taxable instruments on which you don't pay tax because you're tax exempt. And you just live off the profit from using your tax exempt status as a device to make a profit without doing anything. That's considered arbitrage, and the tax code includes a 100% taking of all those. Those are considered unjust gains, and the tax people just take them 100%. That's the arbitrage issue that concerns me. To me, that's more a provider issue than a resident issue. Let the providers, so I suggested only to go to them. But he brought it here, and if you wanted to propose that panel, you could as well.
I'd like to speak to the issue of NACRA leading a workshop at Indianapolis in 2016. Number one, that the board endorse Jack's proposal, and we're 100% behind it, that the panel be 2 states, leading age executives, and NACRA presidents, or their spokespeople. So that's one. Number 2, on June 23rd in Larry Minnick's office with Steve Magg, Walt was there, myself, Bennett was on the phone, and Dan Seeger. A part of the agreement was that Leading Age would save a slot in the workshop scheme, and we would be guaranteed we wouldn't have to go through what, we're not going to hear from them. We will be in and have what we propose. I mean, short of something that is an aberrant thing. But if we go in with a strong Leading Age NACRA model, that is a win-win. And I would think that the combination of their saying in the agreement that we will save a slot for you, and if we propose something that is fitting to the agreement, the cooperative agreement, we should be in business in Indianapolis next year.
Do you need a motion for that, or?
I don't think so. I think this is a done deal. We're just informing the board.
Yeah, okay.
Well, no, but I think you can inform the board, but I think Leading Age needs to know the board heartily endorses it.
Okay.
So I move that we heartily endorse the proposal that Jack has written.
And that,
And get the word heartily.
yeah.
Carefully pronounced.
Do that. Is there a second to that? Yes, Bennett? Oh, wait, Bennett, you have?
So Madam Chair, if this motion passes, which you have voted on, I would just say to close the loop, that could go in the letter that's being revised.
Yeah, put it in the letter.
Okay, we will
Oh,
do
yeah,
that.
okay, good.
So all in favor, please? And opposed? Now, we have had a phenomenal afternoon, and I just thank you so much, and I'm so delighted that Catherine is here. And she said she would just kind of speak to us just for a little bit about the wonder of it all.
That's a good way to do it. I have to say that, in my daily life of being a law professor at a law school that has often mirrored some of the contentions that have arisen for CCRCs in the industry and with leading age generally, I always walk away from this meeting energized because you constantly are working on the task of solving the problem. You generally solve the problems, and that reminds me that it's possible to do. So I always walk away from these meetings more energized than I walk in. And, I think one of the things that just continues to impress me in my own work is I now teach contracts, wills, trusts, and estates, nonprofit organizations law, and elder law. Every one of those courses is driven by my association with residents at Continuing Care. Why? Because when I first started working in this, I didn't understand how these were nonprofits. It didn't make sense to me. So I had to learn that side of the industry and talk to Jack and others of you about the historical precedents. And then I had to take contracts because, of course, your lives are driven not by statutory law so often, but by contractual law. So I started teaching contracts as a result. Obviously, wills, trusts, and estates and elder law are more logical, but really it's my full course package that's been inspired by working with residents and resident
Would
organizations.
you comment what you commented on in Seattle, that most attorneys in elder law do not have a clue as to what a CCRC contract is?
No, completely true. I mean, my very first article I wrote was exactly about that phenomenon, that attorneys were missing the boat by not taking the time to learn and read the contracts in their communities, in their regions where they're practicing law, so that they can give competent advice, rather than giving zero advice and waiting for a controversy that comes up and then trying to solve a problem after it's become unsolvable. Whereas often you can still solve it if you're at the contractual stage and the agreement stage. So yeah, no, that continues to be true. I continue to struggle to find attorneys because I get letters all the time, emails all the time from around the country saying, we've got this problem. Who can we go to for help? And so I'm saying, well, the sad fact of the matter is you're going to have to advocate for yourselves, because it's very hard for me to find an attorney who has any level of expertise in this area.
Catherine, I don't know whether you saw Governor Brown's veto message recently, but they were trying to put through a law about regulating when you get your refund. This is of interest to you, Jennifer, when you get your refund, because she's do a refund and they have to resell and all that stuff. And they were, and so one of the things that got into that was that the provider had to make a good faith effort to resell the unit. And it was going to, and that you could complain to the Department of Social Services that they hadn't made a good faith effort. So what the governor said was that would be involving the department, the regulators in a contract issue, and contract issues should be resolved in the courts, not by the regulators. So on that basis, he vetoed the law there. It was a very interesting turn on contract law. I think he was right.
Yeah.
He really nailed it. But
Well,
he's a pretty brilliant lawyer himself.
Oh, absolutely. And he has smart advisors who tell him, what direction to go to avoid a controversy he's trying to avoid. So.
Well, we just so appreciate everything you have done.
I always feel like I don't do enough.
Yeah, but she's not finished.
She's not, I know.
No, I mean, tomorrow,
No,
we're
no,
gonna, tomorrow we're gonna have a panel of going to be as a resident on a board chairman and Bill's CEO, and Catherine is gonna give the response to the board panel, what was heard and said, and what was not heard, and what was not said.
Yeah.
And so she's gonna be on tomorrow, and I hope all of you will come at least by 9:15 and welcome the strangers that walk in from Boston and make them feel at home and have them sit up front.
All right.
And you know, one other thing that we probably ought to consider doing tomorrow, if there's time in the session tomorrow, is take a few moments and say, who's going to go to what sessions for a couple of days? Because most educational sessions have 4 or 5 different alternatives
And
that
they're-
we could do.
or
So
they're-
take a few moments tonight and look at your
Yeah.
schedules and see what you're thinking about. Maybe we could just take a moment and say, I'm gonna go to X meeting, I'm gonna go, so maybe we can get good geographic representation
Good.
in the session.
Good, yes.
I think the big sleeping elephant in the room is going to be announced tomorrow when they talk about the change of the name CCRC. And I think it behooves all of us to think how we're going to use that in what we do. It's a branding, new branding. I'm not supposed to know what I know. It's very exciting. And it's going to change the thinking of everybody that's currently in the CCRC. And I think that's their objective, get younger people attracted to it.
Well, and I think it also has huge implications from a regulatory standpoint, because one of the things that does happen, I was just talking to Jennifer about this, when you change a name, it has implications for whether or not you fall into a regulated status. And it's part of the game, that's maybe the wrong word, but in senior housing generally, you know, Pennsylvania's a good example. Assisted living was not regulated for a long time, and so there was always controversy about what was offered and what pricing was occurring and what size units, etc. Personal care homes were regulated, and there were very few personal care homes. Continuing care was regulated, and nursing home care. So they finally got around to regulating assisted living, and lo and behold, the vast majority of senior housing in Pennsylvania that had been assisted living changed their name. Yeah, so you do have to, a variety of things, usually independent living with support, you know. So you do have to be aware of exactly this. It can be positive, but it also can have broader implications. And I'm sure one of the broader implications that we ought to keep our eye on is this question of continuing care at home, which will be a form of life plan that is often viewed as being an industry saver for residential continuing care.
But continuing care at home is an unlicensed insurance company. And it has all the risk of an insurance company that's undercapitalized. The reason why they argued to keep it unlicensed is because they don't want to have to meet the capital requirements to make insurance sound. So just be wary of that. Joe Walton's left. Joe Walton was thinking of transitioning from CCRC into continuing care at home. That could be a risky undertaking.
Two things. I wasn't just on the continuing care at home. In case your state's explored this, Florida does have a law that relates to that, and it specifically requires that it can only be provided by a brick and mortar licensed CCRC. So a broker, if you will, can't come in and just start offering those kind of contracts. So I would encourage you to look at that if you look at that. The other thing, if you allow me to do it, is all of you go out and get a box of Wheaties for Dr. Pearson. She's going to be CCRC week for her. So she's going to Florida after this to be our keynote speaker, and then going to 2 different CCRCs in Florida to speak. So she's got residents on her mind all week.
As I said to Jack, this is CCRC week, no matter what you call it.
That's wonderful, and we look forward to having you with us tomorrow. I'm just so delighted you're here.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
And there's only one other item of business, and that is the next monthly meeting of the Board of Directors of NACRA. And that's a teleconference. We'll be on Wednesday, the 2nd of December. We're missing next month because it's the day after tomorrow. And at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that would make you have to get up early.
Don't forget the second clocks back.
Yes, and don't forget
Well,
the
the
second
first-
comes back 1 hour to that tonight. You guys.
So it's really just 4 o'clock, we got out of an
You'll
hour.
get an extra hour. And Mr. President, I congratulate you.
Yeah, right.
And I gotta finish this whole conference, so tomorrow, at whatever we discuss, we take off. Sir, you do that?
Oh, yeah, whatever you say, man.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
now, she said, Bob, Dan is retired, and I've got this job, would you take care of Sunday morning? You know, I said,